Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 meeting of the Transportation and Parking Commission. My name is Donna Lascalia. I'm the Director of Public Works, and I'm the Chair of the Commission. Beth, if you are ready, could you please call the roll? And I just want to note that Chief Cartledge is not with us this afternoon. Captain Robinson is here to represent the police department in the event that there are questions, but will not be voting with us. So Beth, if you could please call the roll.
DPW Director Donna Lascalia.
Here.
Planning and Sustainability Director Carolyn Mish.
Here.
Parking Enforcement Administrator Nancy Forrestal.
Here.
Counselor Alex Jarrett.
Here.
Counselor Deb Clemmer.
Here.
Citizen Devin Bruce. Citizen Diana Foskett.
Here.
Citizen Jamie Albro Fisher.
Here.
Citizen Randy Saylor.
Here. Here. Did I get through?
9 folks. Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
So you've got 9 present voters.
Okay, thank you, Beth. So this meeting is being audio and video recorded. First up is public comment. This is for anyone who wishes to address the commission on a subject that is not on our agenda. If you are here to speak about something on the agenda, I just ask that you hold your comments until we get to that point in the agenda. It makes for a more orderly meeting. But if you'd like to talk to us about something that's not on the agenda, ask that you state your name and city of town or residence for the record, and that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. First up is Alex Bowman. Hi, Alex, go ahead.
Hi, Alex Bowen, Northampton. I wanted to comment about the Locust Street designs that were shown for the Complete Streets project. Complete Streets is about creating infrastructure for all ages and abilities. According to Mass DOT, only about 8% of people are very tolerant of traffic when cycling, while another 60% are labeled interested but concerned, vastly preferring to ride in low-stress environments where cars move slowly or where there's physical separation. We need a low-stress bike network that's more than just the rail trail. We also need to recognize that low-stress design looks different in a dense downtown than it does in suburban areas. But the goal is the same, to make people feel safe riding to their daily destinations. Right now, there are no low-stress ways to reach key destinations like the hospital, Smith College, or Northampton High School. Locust Street is a critical connection between Florence and these locations. It also has the width and importance to support separated bike lanes. Projects like Locust Street come far and few in between, so we need to be purposeful. Each one is a generational opportunity to shape a safer, more sustainable city. Thanks for your consideration.
Thanks for your comments, Alex. Next is Catherine Flynn.
Hi. Hello. Just a quick comment. I am a resident up in Pines Edge, which is up Cook Ave. And first of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you to the city for putting in the 4-way stop sign at Hatfield and Cook Ave, which has been a horrifically dangerous intersection for residents up on this end, especially because of the visibility issues. But I also like to say that we still need some more mitigation issues. I know the police are aware of this, and I know they've said they'll be helpful, which is awesome. And I think that DPW is planning, hopefully, to paint stop on the road. We wonder sometimes if the signs that say there's a stop approaching are actually far enough back to warn people. But the issue is, pardon me, mostly people cutting through on Hatfield from Route 5 to Bridge Street And they're so used to just being able to run through that we've had residents get in accidents there. And been almost hit several times. So I just wanted to bring that up and make the committee aware that it's been hugely helpful, but it's still a bit of a problem for us. And anything that the DPW or the police can do to help us out would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Wendy.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hi, thank you. I'm here today primarily because I think of item 5D. It says stop control at various intersections, and I was alerted to the possibility that the intersection in Leeds, the post office at four-way, where it's only a two-way stop right now, will that be discussed?
Yes, that is on the agenda for later. So if you want to, give us your comments at that time, that would be
Well,
great.
I have comments on that, but I have other comments. So I'll be very quick and say what my other comments are. And that has to do with relative to approaching that intersection is a very bad sight line, as you probably all know, coming off of Main Street onto Mulberry. And I don't know if that's something you would, embrace in the conversation about the intersection, but the bridge makes it really impossible to see cars coming, and they're coming fast down the hill. So I just didn't know whether that would be appropriate to that conversation on the agenda. So, but one other thing, I'll just say I was the director of the Saving Lives program here in Northampton, which was a multimodal traffic safety program back about many years. And so I learned a lot, and a lot of that stays in my mind as I bike, walk, and drive around the city. I'm fully in supportive of Picture Main Street. And I do feel like we need to up our game when it comes to education, enforcement, and what's the third thing? Take action. We really need to do a lot around safety. People aren't wearing bike helmets. People on electric scooters or bikes or whatever are not following road laws and creating dangers for themselves and drivers and others. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Next is Mark. Mark, see if you can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I am here to speak in favor of additional protection for bicyclists on Route 9. I'm not going to say anything more than Alex said because I agree with most everything he said. I think the Fuss and O'Neill plan should be reconsidered. I think there should be additional public comment, and I think the city should take the comments of people very seriously before you go ahead with that project. I was here to speak also about the condition of the street in front of the high school running down towards Riverside. There are no parking and no drop-off signs that are not enforced. People routinely drop off their children and park there routinely and block the road. I've spoken to the chief of police about this. He urged me to come and speak to you. The project for the redesign of that intersection is a ways away. It will probably be a while before the plans are finalized and construction begins. In the meantime, there's a very hazardous situation there. Secondly, I live on Federal Street. Signs went up on Riverside and Federal, a four-way stop. Needs to be enforced. People have nearly been run over or crashed because people are running right through that intersection. Thirdly, the speed of travel on Federal Street, which is used as a bypass to get to the high school, afternoon, and in the mornings. A continuous stream of traffic runs by our houses, turns onto Milton Street, many times at high speed. We need enforcement there as well. There are ordinances and speed limits on the books. People in this neighborhood are looking for enforcement, not just having signs. I'll end my comments there, and I look forward to some changes coming very soon before someone gets hurt.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next is George. Go ahead, George.
Mute. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. George Cohout. I live down on State Street. I'm here also to voice a comment about the Locust Street design. First of all, I want to say that I really appreciate that at both the Bike and Ped meeting, and I believe at the November meeting, the public will have a chance to kind of look at the current design by Fuss and O'Neill and give some input on that, which is great. I think both of these bodies need to be part of the process a little bit more than they have been in the past, especially the Bike and Ped Committee. Secondly, one of the hats I wear is the president of the Friends of the Northampton Trails, which is a group, with at least 1,000 members, people who actively use the trails. The Locust Street redesign certainly is very close to the trails, but as was previously stated, many people would like to also travel on main streets and not just stay on the trails. We know that high school students, both Smith Folk and Northampton High School, use the trail to get down to Hatfield Street, and then they come over onto Locust Street, where they cross the road to Smith Folk or go down to Northampton High School. We need to do, I think, a much better job than what the current proposal looks like in order to protect bicyclists along that stretch. I think it's a great opportunity for the city to experiment, to try out some physical barriers for bicyclists. The speed of cars is just too fast there, as we all recognize. I think the narrowing of the lanes will help a bit in the speed of cars, but it'll still be a much more pleasurable experience to have some kind of physical barrier. And we haven't done much of that here in the city other than by the high school with the Jersey barriers. And I know there's consideration about the winter maintenance, but that's something that we have to deal with, I believe. So again, thanks for allowing more input about the plan. I've had a chance to look at the proposal by the Strongtown Northampton group, and I think it has a lot of merit to it. And perhaps even the Fuss and O'Neill engineers could take a look at that to see what some of the more innovative approaches to that stretch might be. And my last plug is, as we move from the Locust Street DPW yard up to Florence, I'm hoping that we can have some kind of shared use path there for bicyclists, even though that's not in the plans yet. And I hope that there's some way we can have some kind of resting sitting area for folks who are making that trip to be able to enjoy that wonderful view shed that we have there of the Smith Vocational Fields. So thanks for allowing me to give public comment, and I'll pass.
Thanks, George. Next is Danny. Hi, Danny, go ahead.
Hello. Thanks for having us. I'm just commenting on Locust Street as well. Strongtowns Northampton has submitted a proposal that we hope the city will consider, and we hope that the TPC and Bike Ped will have a chance to look at it and talk about it as well. But my kind of primary things looking at the present Fuss and O'Neill plan is that there's still very high vehicle traffic that could potentially be slowed down for better both vehicle, pedestrian, and biking safety. Bikes could be buffered in a way that protects them from fast-moving vehicles, and pedestrian crossings could be a little bit easier, especially considering, the people who are connected from Florence to the hospital and Smith Voc and ultimately the high school on this important stretch. So I appreciate you considering our comments and our proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Danny. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Belanger. I live on Wilson Ave. Also speaking in support of adding protected bike lanes on Locust Street. I'm excited to see buffered bike lanes in the Fussinonial plans, but I think it's a great opportunity to have a truly protected bike lane, whether that's with a curb or there's many options for physical barriers that are out there these days. As others have said, I think the bike path is an amazing resource to get around town, but it really doesn't go everywhere, and it is quite a bit out of the way for some trips. Like if you're going from downtown Florence to Smith College, it's just not a direct route, and I think there's a great opportunity here. I would also love to see some exploration of a two-way shared use path on one side. I think I'm starting to see these popping up in some towns, and it's just another way to make the biking, walking, rolling experience safer and more comfortable and more fun. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Next is Ryan. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, can you see me now? Is it working?
Okay, yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm calling you from an attic. Anyways, I'd also like to speak in support of a redesign, and if you'd forgive me, I'd like to wax poetic a moment. I think the Smith Vogue property is an amazing piece of property in the city, that it's preserved as pasture land, is beautiful and a tribute to the agricultural roots of our city. And the fact that that will likely be preserved in perpetuity is a huge asset that I think we could appreciate more if traveling past it were a pleasant and picturesque experience. Which is why I would really love to see bike lanes on the south side of the road with a divider such that you could imagine pleasantly walking down and looking at the cows on a beautiful autumn day and really appreciating the bucolic and pastoral nature of our city. And that's all.
Thanks, Ryan. Next is Brett.
Hi, thanks. Brett Constantine, Willow Street, Florence. Just really briefly, I think that I have seen the Strong Towns suggestions, proposal, and I find some of it very intriguing, particularly the treatments of intersections, roundabouts, circles are really helpful in both slowing traffic and keeping traffic moving. And I find that both those very interesting as we start to look at Locust Street. I'll say more some other time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from previous meetings, which are May 20th, 2025 and June 17th, 2025. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, that's Councilor Clemmer. Do I have a second?
Second. Seconds.
Wow, I don't know who that was. Devin? We'll give it to Devin, maybe. Devin's the second. Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, Beth, if you could call the roll, please.
Donna,
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Nancy,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Deb Clemmer,
Yes.
Deb and Bruce,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Randy.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
Fine.
Next is reports from departments and subcommittees and announcement. I have several updates from the DPW that I'll run through. So our paving contract is underway. We have Warner Brothers working throughout the city, and they are resurfacing several streets. I'll list them off: Country Way, Russellwood Ridge, Morningside Drive, Winterberry Lane, Birch Lane, Maplewood Terrace, Church Street, Woodbine Avenue, Northern Avenue, Fair Street, and the worst section of South Street it has been addressed. So they do have some remaining work: sidewalk, driveway paving, signage, and pavement markings. We expect everything to be complete by the end of this construction season. We have a sidewalk reconstruction project that was awarded to Gomes Construction. They are mobilized as of today, and they are working on Florence Road. Their plan is to address Bedford Terrace, concrete sidewalks, both sides, in the spring, once Smith College is out of session. If time allows, they will be working on North Elm Street this construction season as well, but it is late in the season and we are subject to weather fluctuations. So we hope the weather holds and we can get the work done that we'd like to get done this season. Terrace Lane, we replaced 700 feet of old water main, replaced some drainage structures. We did repave that road. And I'll be putting a top coat on it shortly, and that project will be wrapped up soon. Pavement markings, we have contract with Pro Finish Lines Company to repaint the pavement markings across the city, as we always do this time of year. They will be painting at night, and we expect that work to be wrapping up in the next few weeks. We also have Eversource in the city doing some restoration on trench cuts, primarily in the Market Street area. They did a lot of work on Bridge Street, downtown, sidewalks, by Holly Street. So they're doing quite a bit of restoration, and that is all funded by the gas company. And there's also been some conversation today about the Complete Streets grant that was awarded. So we received $500,000 to implement improvements to Locust Street, and Fuss & O'Neill is the design engineering firm. Just a couple of notes on this. I do appreciate the submission from Strong Towns and their comments and the comments of folks who discussed this today. We will be devoting a future meeting to discussion with this, and I will have our engineering firm here to talk about the design, which is really in the preliminary stages. We had to submit a concept to Mass DOT to get the grant, and now the design work will begin. I'll also mention that it's a $500,000 grant. There's actually nothing that's going to be able to be implemented unless we have funding to actually pave the roadway. The roadway is in exceptionally poor condition. And if it gets much worse, we're actually going to have to reclaim it. So we do need funding to mill and overlay that entire section of Route 9 so we can implement new pavement markings and the bike lanes that folks are talking about. So that's actually, a funding consideration that has to go through the city's capital plan, but it's just important to note that, the sort of complete streets aspects of this reconstruction are only possible with funding that allows for surface reconstruction. So those are DPW updates. I don't know, Carolyn, if you have anything or if anyone else has anything for us.
I just have one. This is sort of a continuation of the longest project in the world in terms of time, but we got a notice to proceed from MassDOT on the design for phase 2 of Rocky Hill Greenway in the last, I think 2 weeks ago. So we're gonna go ahead and get VHB under contract for designing that segment that would connect basically up at Florence Road near the co-housing projects over to Burt's Pit, so that then you have a then we sort of close that link. So that we're finally given the go ahead, so we'll be starting on that design work soon. Thanks.
Okay, Thanks, Carolyn. Any other members of the commission have any comments for us? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the agenda. Matters before the commission. First up is a proposed ordinance and memo relative to bus stop locations. And I'm actually going to turn this over to Keith Benoit of Planning Office. And Keith, you're welcome to take it from here.
Thank you, everyone. I do have visuals, but I will do my speaking first before we get into that. So this is really just a kind of administrative update to the bus stop ordinance we have. Of the current ordinance, there's only about 16 working bus stops that are on there, but we have 84 bus stops. So these are all bus stops that are operational, PVTA uses, but they're not on the books. And some of the ones that exist are incorrect. Has been updated since 1984. So it's really about safety operations and kind of making a consistent enforcement. So for it to be a bus stop, we can't have cars parking there. So we have to designate it a no parking spot. So for all buses, it's 40 feet minimum. And for the few bus stops that serve as the B43, the one that goes between here and Amherst, that's 60 foot. So really what we want to do is have a clear area for the buses to safely operate. There's clear sight lines, away from cars, all that kind of stuff, and really have a consistent spacing. So work with Councilor Jarrett on doing some of the data digging and doing the ground truthing, tell you what that means a little bit, and also working with PVTA. So PVTA was our partner. We had a lot of questions from them, really digging into where each one of these bus stops is in the physical world, and then what data does PVT have, and then getting that into ordinance language. I did send out the ordinance. I can pull it up. I do have last minute updates about the language, just the assignment of numbers. But that's the other thing we want to do is add all of the PVTA stop IDs to this. So we may call it South and Earl as the stop, and okay, the cross street at South and Earl, beautiful brand new parking paving job there now. But when you call PVTA, or if you're referencing that, it'd be so much easier to say stop ID 4403, and so everyone in PVTA would know that. And so in the language, that will just be an addition to the actual name. So the scope of this really is just naming what is already there, making sure it's in the ordinance, and we're not looking at accessibility or maintenance. We did look at if there's a sign present, but I have done previously a full accessibility overview of a stop, and it's very thorough, and it would take hours. There's 84 stops on here. There's very limited time to go out and do this. So we're not going to be addressing accessibility or maintenance issues with this. So working with PVTA, some of the data we get is their usage, how many times it's been used, whether it's a fare or there's a GPS there. And from that, we're only proposing to remove 2 stops. These are stops that are not in our ordinance. They're just BVTA doesn't use them, and they've taken them off of their route. And then there's 8 other ones. These are ones that are already operational that we're just shifting to a better location. Some of that is consolidation, where the same route or multiple routes are kind of using the same stop. And so we've kind of consolidated. And then some of them we want to be cognizant of intersection. There's a safe distance where the buses should be operating. That's preferred to be before the intersection if possible. And most importantly, we are designating them no parking. Most important thing, we have not taken away any parking. So I know people have a lot of concerns about that. but Councilor Jarrett and myself, and with PVTA, looking at all these, the shifting and putting them where they need to be, we have proposed to remove any parking. So that's the overview of what it is. The ordinance, there's 84 stops. Each one has 4 boxes of data. I don't know if you want me to read them. It's a lot, but basically most of them are pairs. And they'll have, so Arch and Florence, it'll say PVTA stop ID, whatever number it is, the side it's on, southwest, northeast. There you go. And so if I can share my screen, I have a more updated one if that's helpful. Okay. Okay, can you see that now with the red lettering?
Yep.
Okay, so this just came in a few minutes before, and I want to get it in there.
Could
There
you
was a-
zoom in a little bit?
Yes, I can. How's that? Good.
Great, thank you.
So there was a few stop IDs from PVTA that we did not have. That is designated as the red one here. That's just an additional detail. I just have 2 more comments about ones that may have been missing. I can get with PVTA after the fact. But so the ground truthing we did, Counselor Jared and myself, I measured all of these before we went out there to get a rough estimate, and then Counselor Jared and myself went out there and measured each one of these with a little wheel, and to make sure that the intersection on the same side is lined up. That's the gist of it. And we did have the 2 things that visually that I want to share with you. We are proposing to remove this one of these benches on King Street. This is around 129 Pleasant Street, across the street from Shelburne Falls Coffee Roasters. This stop is there's no parking here. There's only a few more feet before the intersection. So we want to get away from the intersection. But to do that, there's this bench in the way, but past that, there's parking, which there's plenty of space there. If you go to the other side of the intersection, there's a lot of curb cuts and access to businesses, and PVTA and ourselves. We didn't think it was a safe place to put a bus. So we are proposing to remove this bench and find a new beautiful home for it where people can still use it. But this is being made an accessible bus stop immediately. There's enough space there, and still we're not going to be blocking the intersection. And then the last piece, we did have a letter come in earlier about some opposition to moving one stop, and that is Maple and Main. Currently, this red box is where the bus stops. As you can see, there's 2 parking spaces there. So this is both not safe and against our ordinance. And so if we wanted to keep this bus stop location here, we would need to remove 2 parking spaces. We are not proposing that. That doesn't seem very palatable to the business here. So this blue circle over here, what we want to do is basically shift this bus stop to where there's already no parking, and there's no conflict with curb cuts. And so that is right here. I don't know the address, but this is right in front of, as you see, this yard with pallets, and plenty of space, no conflict with the light intersection there. And then on the other side of the intersection, going the opposite way, there's a lot of parking. So obviously, operationally, PVTA likes to have stops before the intersection, but to do that, we would have to remove parking. And again, that is not palatable, so we're not we are not proposing that. So without getting into the actual narrative of the ordinance, I'm happy to take any questions. And I do see Paul from PVTA has his hand up. So Paul, I don't know if you have a question or you want to add to that.
Just wanted to point out, you had mentioned earlier that the bus stops needed 40 and 60 feet. Those are the actual dimensions of the buses. So we would need about 60 and 80 feet at a bare minimum to pull in.
Okay.
And that's not, I mean, most of those locations already are pretty compliant with that. So we're not looking at adding any extra space in any locations.
Okay, if that's the case, then I will need to update the ordinance to include that information. Because that was news to me.
Yeah, but just obviously, if we're trying to pull a 40-foot bus in into a 40-foot space, I know Jamin has really good drivers, but that is an exceptional feat.
Copy. I will update that.
Thank you.
Okay, Nancy, go ahead.
I have two questions. One is for enforcement's sake, are you going to stripe this so that people actually know if they're within or outside of that 40 or, 60 or 80-foot area? And also that allows parking enforcement to know what the area is that we're talking about? And will fresh signs be put in? A lot of the signs are in very poor shape. So those are my first two questions, if I could just concentrate on those first.
Sure. I don't have definitive plans on painting and relining when we were out there. I mostly was noting if there was a sign present, but that said, there was not a lot of for the bus stops that had pull-offs. Those would be kind of out of the road. That would make seem like there would be a good place for painting. Otherwise, it'd be in the middle of the road. But I don't have a maintenance plan for this. This is strictly to get it on the books. I think we can talk about that, but we have, unless I'm mistaken, we haven't investigated the painting of it or the enforcement side of it.
Councilor Jarrett, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith, for that presentation. I'm excited to have this before us. And I was curious, we do have those bus stops so those 16 bus stops on the books now, and what is the approach taken from DPW and from parking regarding those in terms of do we sign them? I know the bus stops, if there's a bus stop sign itself, it says no parking, but it doesn't necessarily say the extent of it. So I was curious what the approach currently is taken.
Yeah, I mean, in general, DPW does not maintain PVTA signage or markings. The signage that's at the established bus stops is the jurisdiction of PVTA. So I think that I would need to understand this is a lot of signs, and it's potentially a lot of striping. So I would need to understand operationally what that might look like.
Nancy, you also asked about the signage. We did note as we're going through if there was signage and kind of if we would, how many of those we would need. But we were in conversation with PVTA on getting some of those and then possibly in the future purchasing more. But As we discussed, the goal, would be in a perfect world, all these would have perfect infrastructure, but a lot of these are just, going onto grass or onto sidewalk, and there's not a shelter. So, getting those up to standard takes a little money. And from the one station that or bus stop that we did install 2 years ago, it does cost a lot of money to design these and get the construction if we wanted to make them fully accessible and with a shelter. But still, the signage does also cost money.
Right, so to be able to enforce it, we're gonna need proper signage and also to know where the area of that bus stop is to be able to enforce it. We need some sort of markings. Obviously they can't go out there and measure every bus stop while they're trying to enforce it. So there's gonna have to be some sort of guidance. And in all fairness, guidance to the person who may be parking within that bus stop, and they don't even realize that they're parking within it. So that's something that we need to make sure that we work out properly. And my next question, if I may, is you said that there's going to be consolidation of some of the stops. Does that mean that you're removing stops? And if so, have you had any kind of public comment?
So yes, there are 2 stops that are being removed. And from PVTA's data, some of those have not been used in months or years. They're not, if they get one boarding at all. And so that's, right now, these are not on the books. So if you went into the ordinance, you would not see that they existed. And then there are comparable stops nearby. And so one of those is in Florence, not Pine Street, but Maple, I think.
Chestnut in Maine.
Chestnut in Maine. There are comparable stops between the Pie Bar going all the way to Tandem Bagel. And then there's another one that is not used, but there's also one within 500 feet of it. Yeah, I think overall out of 82 out of 84, we've done a pretty good job of ensuring that no one's losing access, but operationally people not having to stop, beyond kind of what would make sense.
Randy, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know how much we want to get into the weeds on each different bus stop, but that was sort of a question that I had regarding the one that's called 7445 and 7446 on Florence Road. First of all, it shouldn't be called a Rocky Hill co-housing bus stop. It should be called Blackbirch Trail. That's the intersection. That's a road that's right there, and that has a street sign on it and everything. And people won't know. There's nothing on Florence Road that knows that as Rocky Hill co-housing. So that's the first comment I would make. The second comment is when you get to the locations and the changes of it. There's a walking path that walks up along Blackbirch Trail to Florence Road, and there's actually a seat there. We put a bench at the end of that, and that's on the south side of Blackbirch Trail. So that's on the northbound bus. There's a place just to have the bus stop right there, right in front of the intersection where you prefer it, and with a bench. That's in fact where the school buses stop, in that same location in the mornings and the afternoon. So I would suggest that would be a consideration to make, and also thinking about where. I'm not sure there's a great location right across the street from that for a a southbound bus. But those are my particular comments. The more important one is to call it Black Birch Trail, not Rocky Hill Co-housing. Not that I'm not proud of Rocky Hill Co-housing, but it's just people will know better what it is.
Thanks, Randy. I see Paul's hand up, and this actually may be a question for Paul. I'm looking at the ordinance, and most of these distances measure 40 feet. And with your saying that you need between 60 and 80 feet, and I'm not sure which it is, if it's 60, 80, or it varies depending on the length of the bus, but I'm wondering if there are going to be parking space conflicts given that the length of the stop actually needs to potentially double. So I guess I'm just looking for confirmation about how long does the space actually need to be. I'm going to unmute you, Paul. Go ahead.
So ideally, except for the stops for the B43, which are what the Academy of Music, and it's only what 4 stops in it, and Jamin can chime in if I'm off on that, but it's roughly the Academy of Music and a couple of stops south of there that would need to be 80 feet. Everything else 60 feet. I mean, if we need to accommodate 45 feet and 50 feet in some locations, it's doable. The bus just isn't going to be able to pull all the way into the stop. So in a perfect world, every stop should be at least 60 feet. But we don't operate in a perfect world. So we're not looking to take anybody's parking spaces. And certainly we're operating now in this environment. So designating these stops just makes it clearer. And if it ends up being only 40 feet, we can figure it out. The ideal is 60. And for the 60-foot bus, the ideal is 80 feet. But we're not looking to come in wholesale and say, geez, we want a perfect world. I can't find a community in Western Mass where we operate in a perfect world. And also in terms of the signage, we will pay for the signs. So, I think one of the biggest challenges for us and for the riders is that folks just don't know where to get on the bus sometimes, especially folks who are new to town. And it does create conflict points. If we're looking right now, these are all called flag stops. So you're in the vicinity and we're going to pull over. Hopefully we can. We may be pulling over right in front of a parking space sometimes because that's where the rider is. So this will help to minimize a lot of that conflict. And, if it's only a 45-foot space, Jamin's probably shooting me daggers right now saying, we can figure something out. It's better than the situation we have now. And then, we're not looking at, geez, we want to wave a magic wand and everything is fixed today. We get this is going to be a multi-year process. Ideally, we'd like to look at state funding to improve all these stops to be handicap accessible, et cetera. We're not going to get 80 stops, made handicap accessible anytime in the next couple of years. But incrementally, we can take that approach and begin to improve them as the funding becomes available.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Councilor Jarrett, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd be happy to go consult with Keith Benoit and work through some of these stops. And some of them are near an intersection, they're already posted in no parking zones. So the expansion there is not a concern. Or if the bus can pull over, like for example at across from the Academy of Music by Masonic Street, the bus pulls over because there's right after that intersection, so that you don't need to add space into that intersection. So we could go through many of these stops and revise the ordinance. The next step for this ordinance is for it to go before legislative matters on November 10th. And so I would be happy to work with him in that time period to update these numbers.
Thanks, Counselor. Anyone else on the commission have any comments or questions about this? And then I want to open it up to members of the public. If not, if any members of the public who are here have any comments on this. Okay, I know that Keith touched on this, but I just want to confirm that we did receive the letter or the correspondence from the owners of 21 North Main Street in Florence, who are objecting to the location or to the proposed location of the bus stop. So I just want to acknowledge receipt of that letter and confirm that it has been distributed to the commission, and it will be part of the record of the minutes of this meeting. We'll append it to the minutes when they're posted. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there. I don't know if there's any further commentary on that. Councilor Jarrett, go ahead.
Thank you. While Keith and I were out measuring, we did stop in and talk with the owners as well. And it's a tough situation because I respect their concerns. And also that is clearly the best location that will not cause parking conflicts. And I'm sure that there would be, if the proposal was to keep it where it is and yet post it properly in the ordinance and remove those parking spaces, we'd be hearing from many, many other businesses and probably other members of the public about that concern, about that location. So while I hear their concern, I think that this is in the best interests of all involved.
Thanks, Counselor. Nancy, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood where we're talking about moving that bus stop to in Florence. Now, is that just past where their delivery driveway is and their pickup driveway for Florence Hardware?
Correct. It goes right into basically no parking zone, or there's no more parking spaces, but you'll see all the pallets and everything else right there.
So that's not going to cause a conflict with that intersection that's just past there?
It's far enough away from the left that you would go to the Lilly Library, and there would be no conflict with the other direction where there's the merge with people coming from that little park there.
Counselor Jarrett?
Good note that the current situation is that the bus stops and blocks the entire lane, but right after that intersection. And then people get out where the parked cars are, or if the accessible ramp is needed to be used, then it has to find a place while it's parked, blocking the entire lane, and find a place where a wheelchair user can safely navigate between the parking areas. So that's the current situation. So that our thinking was that this would allow the bus to pull off quite a bit further and reduce some of, and then if the accessible ramp is used, it can lower right onto the sidewalk.
Thanks, Counselor. I'll move to members of the public. Gwen, I see your hand up. We're gonna unmute you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, this may have nothing to do with the discussion of tonight, but there are people who are curious to know when the new Bridge Road community is all set and the bus is going there, when it comes back, how people will cross the street or how it will be coming back. So I just wanted to put that out there. And it may or may not be relevant to the discussions tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment.
So Gwen is talking about Prospect Place or 737 Bridge Road. So there are two current operational PVTA bus stops there on both sides, so inbound, outbound. And the one that is inbound, the one that is on the same side as Prospect Street, So that'd be on the west side of this cross Bridge Road that has a little, not the house, the little building there, little shed, and concrete pad and a future Valley Bike Station. So residents of that housing or people on that side of the street can easily get there. The opposite side, thank you. The opposite side, you wouldn't know where the bus stop is, but it is on the opposite side, kind of past Hatfield Street. So for pedestrian, there's no sidewalk on that side of the street, and there's no real crosswalk until you get to Lathrop Community. So very dangerous. And what we're proposing is to, if you turn the view around, is to put on the opposite side, just past that large oak tree, kind of near this intersection. So this seems like it could be a good place to, it's far enough away from Hatfield Street, but also a logical place to put a crosswalk going across Bridge Road. So there's obviously a future conversation about doing that, but looking at other alternatives, and if you've been on this road, it's high volume and high speed. So anything we can do to kind of make the pedestrian crossing a little better, we can.
Okay, thanks. Gwen, do you have another comment? Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so because what I am also thinking of is the speed that people go on that road. And I was actually driving down Meadow Street today, and I was like, you know, I don't even think about slowing down, but I automatically slow down with those humps there. And that is another road that's a nice straight road that people like to speed down. And I think that those have been very helpful. So that's just something in the back of my mind that I was thinking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further discussion on this from members of the public or members of the commission?
Donna, I just have two important points.
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
This does not include private property. So Housing Authority, Meadowbrook, Atwood Drive, VA Medical Center, any of those properties, Florence Housing, Florence Heights, those are all not being added to the ordinance. So any private property, and then the one stop or Pulaski Park. Once Main Street redesign is done, that will have to be remeasured. So in a couple of years, we'll be going back to get the updated dimensions. But other than that, yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Any further discussion on this? Comments from the public, the commission? Gwen, go ahead. I'll unmute you again.
Okay, sorry. Okay, that just makes me have another question. I guess it would be up to the private owners of the property to provide, you know, these sort of things. And then if they wanted to do that, could they draw on community preservation funds?
Community preservation funds would likely not be able to use for any of these. And yes, if it's on a private property, those owners can certainly put up their own money for shelters and pads and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Devin, go ahead.
I'm on the CPC and this would not be appropriate for their funding rules.
Thank you, Devin. Okay, any further comments on this? Councilor Jarrett, go ahead.
I would move a positive recommendation with the understanding that myself, Councilor Jarrett, and Keith Benoit will review the locations and the lengths to match PVTA's needs, if possible.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Do I have a second on that?
Devin seconds.
Thank you, Devin. there any further discussion on this? Nancy, go ahead.
Can we also make sure that this is with the understanding that the proper signage will be put in place and the proper markings will be put in place to designate that area as enforceable?
Councilor Jarrett, go ahead.
Yeah, so I certainly wish for that goal. I'm not sure that the ordinance itself can specify that because that's an operational activity that the DPW, well, the PVTA or we're in concert with the DPW would undertake. But so I'm not certainly the commission can express that desire and the DPW can determine how they implement that. Would that be correct, Director Muscalia?
I think based on what Paul said, the PVTA will supply the signs. We would need to approve the locations of those signs and permit them. In terms of roadway markings, that's not something that we would have an appropriation for. So that would have to be a conversation with PVTA about funding. So maybe it's sort of joint comments from Nancy and from me that just sort of state that reality that go into the record for legislative matters and then ultimately council.
Thank you.
So that's certainly something I can provide.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we have a motion for a positive recommendation on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. Beth, if you could call the roll, please.
Donna,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Deb Clemmer,
Yes.
Deb and Bruce,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Randy.
Yes.
Unanimous with 9 votes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Thank you to Keith and to the folks from PVTA for being here. I appreciate your efforts, and to Councilor Jarrett as well for your efforts on that. Next is a proposed ordinance relative to a stop control on Bedford Terrace. So as I mentioned in my DPW updates, we are planning to reconstruct the concrete sidewalks on both sides of Bedford Terrace, and that work is going to be done in the spring when Smith College is done for the season. We did have a 2020 traffic study of the area that was conducted by our third-party engineering firm, Fuss & O'Neill, and they studied the intersection of State Street and Bedford Terrace. One of the recommendations at this intersection was to install a stop sign on Bedford Terrace. And I'm going to read a quote from the study. Bedford Terrace currently lacks a stop sign, but should have one for safety. Surprisingly, the crash history does not show a pattern of vehicles from Bedford Terrace crashing at State Street, but the city is taking an unnecessary risk by assuming drivers will know to stop at State Street without explicit stop sign control. There were 7 crashes that were recorded between 2013 and 2018, and the majority of those crashes were rear-end crashes on State Street headed northbound. As part of the sidewalk reconstruction project on Bedford Terrace, we're actually going to be shrinking that intersection of Bedford Terrace and State Street down by putting in curb extensions there to make the crossing distance less. We're going to be putting in new pedestrian crossing signs on State Street, and we're also going to be relocating that crosswalk to make that entire section safer. So as part of preparing for the implementation of this project, asking the commission to approve this proposed ordinance to put a stop control in so that it can be installed and drivers can get used to it before the new traffic patterns go into place. So that's sort of the background on this. So we are requesting an amendment to Schedule 12 stop and yield intersections, and that is the installation of a stop sign at Bedford Terrace and State Street. And I won't read the ordinance, but Maggie, if you could just put the plan up for us so we can see what it's going to look like. And that's what we are proposing. So that's the background. So I don't know if there's any comments or questions from the commission. And if not, I would ask for a motion for a positive recommendation.
I make a motion for positive recommendation.
Thank you, Councilor Clemmer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, it's Councilor Jarrett with the second. There any discussion or questions on this from the commission and then from members of the public, if not the commission? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Beth, if you could call the roll, please.
Donna,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Debin,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Randy.
Yes.
Again, unanimous with 9 votes. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Next is a proposed ordinance relative to parking within 10 feet of a crosswalk. So over the years, there have been concerns about pedestrian safety and sightlines at crosswalks. The ordinance, as it is currently written, prohibits parking upon any crosswalk or within 10 feet of either side of a crosswalk where posted. And those two words create enforcement problem because we have a lot of crosswalks in the city and it is not feasible to post each crosswalk. So the mayor and council president Jarrett have co-sponsored a change to this ordinance, and I'll actually ask Councilor Jarrett if he would just have a few comments for us on this.
Sure, thank you. So this originally came to my attention when I was talking with some members of the commission, Director Lascalia, I think, and Director Mish and Nancy Forrestal about the rail trail crossing at Chestnut Street in Florence. A lot of folks park along there, and sometimes they park very close, and it creates sightline problems. So we looked into, okay, how can we create some kind of buffer here? And one option would have been to post it there and then at 10 feet on either side. But that adds a significant amount if you added that with all of the different crosswalks around the city, that would add a significant expense to have to post all of these locations where there might be a concern. So this will allow that to take effect. And I would note that there are similar rules. For example, no parking within 3 feet of a driveway, no parking, I believe, is it 20 feet of an intersection? So that there are similar rules in effect that do not have to be posted. And my question, of course, is how do we do in education? So how do people know? And I wonder if this could be, if it passes, this could be put out in the mayor's newsletter. This could in the parking administration page. I'm not sure if already there's a summary of rules, but just so people can easily find the rules and understand them. So that would be something I would love to see in conjunction with the passage of this ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Jarrett. And I don't know, Nancy, if you have any comments for us just around enforcement or the challenges of enforcement, but I would note that we have more than 300 crosswalks across the city. So as Councilor Jarrett said, posting each crosswalk is not feasible.
Right, and this will absolutely benefit public safety. It would remove sightline obstructions, and it will allow parking enforcement to actually enforce it. Because I think that having where posted becomes, like you said, it's a huge expense, and that means that people, unless they are actually with tires on the crosswalk, can park right up to it. It's not, there isn't any kind of a buffer in place as it stands right now. And it's very, very dangerous. So I absolutely support this. And thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Nancy. So to be clear, we're asking for this ordinance to be revised with the removal of the words "where posted," as shown on the screen. Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate this ordinance, and I see it as kind of a start to a longer process of making sure that our crosswalks and intersections have clear sight lines. Essentially, you're creating a curb extension there that will allow people to be seen better when they're starting to approach a crosswalk, which is a wonderful thing and something that we should be thinking about in a lot of different situations. But this is a great start for crosswalks, so I strongly support it. With any kind of markings we can do, even too. I don't know if it's possible to paint a curb or something like that, but at least having the law clear, the ordinance clear about what the rule is terrific, I think.
Okay, thank you, Randy. All right, any other members of the commission have any comments on this? And then I'll open it up to the public. Okay, seeing none, Ryan, go ahead.
Hey there. I just wanted to say that I love this commitment to daylighting as a safety matter. I was wondering if it would be possible for 6 months to only issue warning or something of the sort as a way of easing people in to the new system.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Any other comments from members of the public on this? Okay, I don't see any. I don't know if Nancy has any comment on enforcement activities.
We have done a warning period in the past. That's something that we could definitely discuss in this context. I think that 6 months would be a bit long, but it's definitely something that we have done in the past, like when we changed a number of the ordinances for parking in 23. So it's well worth a conversation on giving courtesy warnings first.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Any other comments from members of the public or members of the commission on this? Would someone like to make a positive recommendation for an amendment to this existing ordinance as written?
Nancy would like to forward that motion.
Okay, Nancy makes the motion.
Second.
Have a second.
Second.
Okay, Councilor Clemmer, any further discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. Beth, if you could call the roll, please.
Donna,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
Nancy,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Debin,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Randy.
Yes.
Unanimous with 9 yeses.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay, next is a proposed ordinance relative to stop control at various intersections. So there's 3 different pieces to this, and I have several comments. So we had our third-party engineering firm, Fuss and O'Neill, study multiple intersections, some of which have actually been discussed here at this commission. And they make recommendations to us for traffic control devices if necessary. So the changes in controls at these intersections are based on their data analysis and engineering judgment, but all of the intersections that we're about to talk about have been studied extensively by Fuss and O'Neill. So the first is we're asking for three different changes to stop sign ordinances. And the easiest thing is probably, Maggie, if you were to put up the revised map. So we will start with Blackberry Lane at Prospect Avenue. We did make an error in posting the agenda with this intersection. Fuss and O'Neill actually recommended that this intersection be converted to a four-way stop, not a two-way stop. So we did have an error in the map that was posted with the original agenda and in the ordinance that was posted in the original agenda. So that's why I want to publicly correct the record. So Fuss and O'Neill has recommended a conversion to an all-way stop control at the intersection of Blackberry Lane at Prospect Avenue. So I just want to note that Warburton Way is actually a private way, and it already has a stop sign there. That is not under city control. That's private property. We've dealt with this in other places like Higgins Way up in Village Hill. But the legs of this that are under city control are Prospect Avenue and Blackberry Lane. So what Fuss and O'Neill has commented on is that there were two crashes that were reported in a 2-year period from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2023. And if what Fuss and O'Neill is most concerned about at this location is deficient sight lines, meaning that motorists just do not have enough opportunity to see cars making turning movements in order to have a free flow of traffic. And that is why there is a recommendation for a four-way stop here. One of the things I also want to mention is that we have discussed Prospect Avenue at this commission. And that there is speeding here. It's a 30-mile-an-hour posted corridor. The 85th percentile in this corridor is 35.9 miles an hour. We don't ever use stop signs as a speed control device, but I will note that the conversion of this intersection to an all-way stop will force vehicles to stop, will improve safety for cars making turning movements at this intersection, and will significantly slow traffic in this area, much like the intersection of Hatfield and Cook, which is sort of another cut through. So that's the first piece of this, and it might be easier for us to just take these one at a time. I'll leave that there and ask if any members of the commission have any comments. And I just want to recognize Councilor Moulton is here and thank him for attending, and just ask if he or anyone else have any comments for us.
Yeah, yes, I support the now a four-way stop there for the reasons that you mentioned. I have received many complaints about speeding on Prospect Avenue. In addition, with the completion nearing of 737 Bridge Road, the Prospect Place project, that will bring more traffic to this neighborhood. And I think that adding this now will be a proactive measure for that reason, with more traffic expected on Prospect Avenue at that end near Bridge Road. So I support this.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Jarrett, go ahead.
Yeah, this seems like a great change. This is, though, might be unexpected for folks, and I wonder if we're going to use similar treatments like we did at Federal and Riverside, or over by on Hatfield and Cook Ave, to warn people and then have some police presence for some time, just to make sure that we don't see any crashes because it's so unexpected.
Yes, Counselor, definitely. I mean, any implementation to a four-way stop, I think can surprise folks. So the reason I was trying to hurry to get this on the agenda for this month is because I'd like it to go through the council process before the snow flies, so that I can feel comfortable putting, we'd probably do a similar setup to Cook and Hatfield, you know, with the orange barrels in the road, and I can't have those barrels out when we're trying to de-ice. So my hope is that we can get this through council and get this implemented and get drivers used to it before we get into heavy snow and, you know, needing to run sanders through there and plows through there. So yes, I hear you. Just a couple of other comments on this. I want to note that this intersection is just over 700 feet away from the intersection with Bridge Road. So one of the things, and I did speak with Councilor Moulton about this, one of the things that we just wanted to be careful about was that, you know, we were not too close to Bridge Road and have, you know, unnecessary traffic queues or sort of people confused about multiple stop signs in a row. But I think our engineering firm feels confident that this intersection is far enough away that that's not an issue. Any other members have of the commission have any comments on this, or members of the public who have any comments on this particular intersection? Okay, so now we'll move on to Corticelli Street at Pine Street. And so this is a four-legged intersection that is sort of interesting in that we have a stop sign on one side of Corticelli Street, but not on the other side for those who are familiar with the area. So there were 2 crashes reported here between January 1st, 2021 and December 31st, 2023. So again, Fuss and O'Neill looked at this and determined that it does not meet warrants for an always stop control, but they do want to add a stop sign on the unregulated portion of Corticelli Street to align with driver expectation. So this sort of goes into the category of engineering judgment. It really, the way it's set up right now doesn't make a lot of sense, and drivers, you know, you always want to sort of give drivers what they're expecting, or there can be a less than ideal outcome. So again, recommendation to the ordinance in this case to add a stop sign at the intersection of Corticelli and Pine where there is not one. So I don't know if there's any comments or questions on this intersection. Any members of the public who have any comments on this? Okay, so the last piece of this is the intersection of Audubon Road, Mulberry Street at Reservoir Road and River Road. This is actually an intersection that we get a lot of complaints about. And we asked Fuss and O'Neill to take a look at this. There were 5 crashes reported here from the time frame that they studied, which is January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2023. And they are recommending the existing 2-way stop control at Audubon be changed to an all-way stop. And, you know, their summary report to me states that the sight lines simply are not acceptable and pose too much of a risk to drivers, which is of course reflected in the crash data. So I just want to recognize Councilor Maori. Thank you so much for joining us, and go ahead.
Thank you, and good evening. So I got a fair amount of feedback in a short amount of time from my residents. So I'm just going to really just quickly summarize what I heard. Strong majority support for converting this intersection to a 4-way stop. Residents report describe it as confusing, hazardous, and overdue for safety improvements. I heard a lot of stories about near misses and past accidents due mainly to the unclear right-of-way because a lot of people assume it's already a four-way stop. And let's see, some report limited visibility coming down from Audubon Road and also speeding from Audubon Road, making it more unsafe. And there's some, I also heard from pedestrians and cyclists about several of them being involved or witnessing crashes or close calls. And yeah, they expressed a lot of gratitude. So one person, did question whether it was necessary, but the majority of residents were very thankful to hear that this was going to, go through our process. And other concerns, someone asked if they could see the engineering study or the crash data. They were curious. And we had some questions about the impact on the post office crosswalk and the visibility for vehicles exiting the post office, potential effect on traffic flow or sight distance from Reservoir Road because of the post office. Yeah, and so some questions about the sight lines on Main, Mulberry, and Florence. I guess the bridge rails block some visibility. And then also can we consider putting pedestrian warning signs at the post office crosswalk? So those were the only kind of questions and concerns, but I'd say the overwhelming majority of the residents who are also very, lived in that area too, was very supportive. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. And I can certainly get this report posted on our website, and it has quite a bit of backup data in the appendices, and folks can read about that. And I hear your concerns about the crosswalk at the post office, and we'll see what we might be able to do with that. Thank you. All right, any other comments from members of the commission on this intersection? All right, Wendy, go ahead. I'm gonna unmute you. Oh, I'm sorry, Randy, go ahead first.
Yeah, I think this is a great place for a four-way stop. I drive through that area often on my way to Williamsburg, and I kind of automatically stop there anyway, because it feels like there ought to be a stop sign there. So I think this is sort of the other end of, setting people's expectations for what they kind of view it as. So I think this is an excellent place.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Okay, Wendy, I'm gonna unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Putting on my video. Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Maori, for capturing all that info, including my response to you. I'm glad to hear that there's overwhelming support for this. It's very important. Just to underscore something I said at the top of the meeting, the problem also is with non-vehicle, other vehicle, ignoring the stop signs that are already there. And I just think we have to do a lot more education and enforcement, and maybe improve signage around the increasing modes of getting around that people are using. It's not just cars and trucks, obviously, motor vehicles. So yeah, so great that you're going to do, looks like we're going to be doing this. I think it's critically important. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Okay, John, go ahead. I'm gonna unmute you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm John Dietrich. I live on Upland Road in Leeds. I've been a resident up here for about 43 years. I have one question and then just two comments. I think that, Donna, you've probably answered one of my questions. I just wanted to know if there was a engineering study or a report on this. And I was looking online, and you mentioned the Fuss and O'Neill study. I just found out about this 2 days ago, so that's why I'm kind of coming in late with these questions. But I just was looking for the basis in terms of meeting the traffic, the always stop warrants for this thing. So I don't know where that study's available. If I could just look at it, maybe from the engineering department or something. I couldn't find it online, but That's my first question, is where I could look at that. My two concerns are, number one, I'm a retired traffic engineer, actually, after 43 years in the traffic engineering business as well. So my concern is more with the implementation if you go ahead and improve and always stop here. And I use that intersection every day. My first concern is the impact really on the existing crosswalk that's there between Chart Pack and the post office. That crosswalk is a little more than one car length away from where you'd have a stop sign on Mulberry Street as you're heading westbound. So you're going to have to, I would hope there would be a recommendation to do something relocating that crosswalk. I don't feel there's any way you could keep it where it is now. And it is used quite a bit by local residents to and from the post office along the sidewalk on Mulberry. My second concern is just the impact to the traffic coming out of the post office. The post office exit is right at that intersection, right next to Reservoir Road. There is a stop sign now at the post office, and I will vouch for the fact that there is a sight distance issue as you look to the west, to the left, coming out of the post office and coming out of Reservoir Road as well, because of vegetation coming down Audubon Road. So there is a sight distance issue there now, which I think probably some kind of action would help. But the problem is when people come out of the post office and turn left, either to go to Reservoir Road or River Road or Audubon Road, they can't make the full left turn and stop at a stop sign on Mulberry Street. There's just not enough distance. So I guess my point is, if this is approved, I just think there has to be some consideration given for those left turns coming out of there. Yeah, actually, there is quite a bit of traffic at the post office too. Technically, you've kind of got almost a five-way intersection because it's so close. I've actually worked on those in the past too, so I'm kind of familiar with options to do that. But those are just my two concerns on there, if it should go ahead and be implemented.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. And we'll get the report from our traffic engineers posted up on the website. And
okay, I don't. Maggie may have a copy there in the office. I'm not sure. I haven't really had a chance to check with her, but maybe you've got a copy I can look at there. That's fine too. So
yep. We'll make sure that you get it. So and thank you for your comments about the post office and that crosswalk. You know, a lot of times we sort of have to implement things, you know, in phases. And, you know, so a lot of this is, you know, trying to prevent the crashes that have been sort of ongoing. And then we can look at larger improvements. But I hear your concerns around that crosswalk and those traffic patterns there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments around this particular intersection? Okay, Brett, go ahead.
Thank you. I would support this change, although I absolutely admit that John's concerns are valid. I bike through this intersection in multiple directions every week, and so I'm quite familiar with it. I think it would be still a benefit to our safety to stop the traffic coming off of the hill on Audubon Road. And that to me is probably worth it, even with the costs that might happen with the other side of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Brett. All right, any other comments on this intersection? And if not, any other comments on any of the intersections that we've talked about? Okay, hearing none, I would look for a positive recommendation to amend 312-113 Schedule 12 to reflect the changes on the map in front of us, with the understanding that the agenda was posted incorrectly, and we will be submitting to council and therefore legislative matters a revised map for Blackberry at Prospect Avenue. So I'm looking for a motion for a positive recommendation on all three of these intersections.
So moved.
Okay, Randy, do I have a second?
Second, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Is there any further discussion on any of this? And again, we will work with the police department to implement these four-way intersections safely as we have in other locations around the city, ideally before the snow flies. Okay, any further comments? All right, hearing none. Beth, if you could call the roll, please.
Donna,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Debin,
Yes.
Diana,
I think Diana
she
must have fallen off. Yeah.
okay, Jamie,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
so that's unanimous with 8 yeses.
Okay, thank you, Beth. All right, that concludes our agenda. Does anyone have any new business? Okay, hearing none, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Beth Kaplowitz's contributions to the commission. She's been our clerk for many years and has done a fantastic job. We do have a new clerk in the DPW, Catherine Bear, who's actually sitting with Cindy under the DPW meetings tag. So Catherine is going to be taking over duties for the commission. So we welcome her and thank her for that. Beth may be with us in the future, event Catherine's unable to attend, but I so appreciate Beth's efforts over the years, and she has really done an impeccable job just with the minutes and in being here with us, you know, all during COVID and under some really difficult circumstances. So thank you so much, Beth, for your service to us and for making my job a lot easier. So thank you for that, and welcome to Catherine, and we're looking forward to working with you. Okay, so that concludes our meeting for tonight. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, that's Carolyn. Who is my second on that? Okay, Councilor Clemmer, any discussion? Hearing none. Beth, please call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes, and thank you, Beth.
Alex,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Debin,
Yes, and thank you, Beth, for being willing to pull us around if we need you in the future. Appreciate it.
Diana's not here. Jamie
Yes.
and Randy.
Yes.
So that is unanimous with 8 yeses.
Everyone, and we'll see you next month. Take good care.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay, bye-bye.